Sweet. Well, like I said a second ago, my name's Katie. This is my third year working in the winters as a mountain lion tracker. And I'm going to tell you one of my favorite stories from the field. So, what's really cool about this job is that you realize right away that individual animals definitely have personalities. So often we think about, oh, well, this entire species acts this way, or this entire species acts this way, but it's definitely not always true.
Do you mean they're not just instinct-driven meat machines?
No.
Oh my goodness, shocking.
So a lot of times if you find a track of, especially like an older, more mature mountain lion, they kind of go in maybe sort of a straight line. It's like kind of predictable the way that they're moving across the landscape. But with younger cats, sometimes they're a little bit kooky. So one day, one of my most memorable days, I was tracking a cat that was just like going bonkers. Its tracks were going uphill, downhill, jumping on rocks, jumping off of rocks, checking out other animal tracks, just like they made no sense. And what was so cool was that it was clear that this was a younger cat who was kind of just having fun. They didn't necessarily have a plan for their day. And so that cat, kind of like we do sometimes, right? So that cat was F9. We call her Sula sometimes. And it's super cool because now she's grown up and she has her own kittens. And so it's been really neat to sort of watch her turn into an adult.
Very fun. What is the most surprising thing you've seen while tracking, Katie?
Whew. The most surprising thing I've seen. Well, I think it's kind of along the same lines. You know, you expect that, okay, this cat's going south and it's just gonna keep going south. But cats are crazy, right? Like if any of you has a house cat at home, they do all sorts of weird stuff. So one day this year, I was tracking a cat and I was in this really dense forest and the trees were all covered in snow. And this cat had clearly just gone into the forest and kind of gone like, woo, 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 all through the trees. It made no sense. But it was really fun to just follow that track and kind of unravel maybe what it might have been doing or at least where it was going. But they always surprise you and keep you on your toes.
Yeah, I was listening to a Steve Rinella podcast and they were interviewing a guy about mountain lions on that podcast, and he said that mountain lions will take you to places you never expected to go. And I think that is very accurate. I've gone all sorts of places I never expected to go. And usually you're like going up a hill and you're like, oh, they'll just hit the ridge and they'll go back the ridge and whatever. And then they don't. They stop short of the ridge and they side hill for like 5 miles and then go up and down a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
You've got 4-wheel drive, you can go anywhere.
Totally.
Yeah, true. We're going to go on a round of questions so that you guys can introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about where you're from and ask one question. But before I do that, I want to see a raise of hands in all of our schools that are on right now. How many of you have house cats at home?
Nice.
Okay, keep your hands up, those of you who are cat lovers. How many of you have tried to track and follow your house cat?
Yeah, kind of, sort of.
Yeah, sort of. They do a lot of sleeping, I know that. But when they're moving, they're fun to track. You might want to try that after now that you've heard from people who do it for a living.
House cat tracks morphologically are just like mountain lion tracks. They're just smaller.
Wow, that's amazing. So we're going to go ahead and start a round of questions. What I'm going to do, teachers, I'll unmute your microphone, and if you want to pick a student to introduce yourselves, tell us where you're from, and ask a question if you have one. And we're going to go ahead and start with Arlie. Mr. Stockton, good to see you. Do you guys have a question? And I'm trying to unmute you, and it's not working. Maybe you can unmute yourself. Maybe not. And also, you can also type questions in the chat.
Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Bill.
Got it. Who's up?
Question?
Oh, we got a student coming up to introduce.
Great.
All right.
This is Arley High School with several different grades, but all relating classes. I don't have a question.
You don't have a question?
That's okay.
Anybody have a question?
Yet? Maybe not yet?
Oh,
There's Ali. Any questions?
Yeah. You can save them for later. That's okay. We just want to hear from you. And where Arley High School, where is that? Because we've got people on from all over the country. So
Arley's about 20 miles north of Missoula.
in Montana, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
On the Flathead Bed.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. We'll come back to you. Let's go to Glacier High. Do you want to say hi and tell us a little bit about yourselves and maybe ask a question if you have one? Miss Yartsons. I always see that wrong.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, Cutbank. Sorry, Cutbank. Sorry.
Go ahead.
all right.
This is our applied science class, and it's from freshman to junior is in here. And I'm Jacqueline. We're in Montana. And I was wondering if mountain lions at a certain time they bred. Like if they bred
If they breed at a certain time.
Oh, if they breed at a certain time? Yeah, so mountain lions do not have a breeding season. It can be game on anytime, but the typical birth pulse is in the spring. So often they will have litters to correspond with when deer and elk are having young. And the thinking is that there's a greater food availability to then be able to feed their young. However, we don't see that here. Our birth pulse is in late fall, which we don't really know why that is. We have a few theories on it, but consistently for the past several years, we have seen kittens born in late October or somewhere in October. And then those kittens are raised through the winter, which can be tough, definitely with weather. But mountain lions are very submissive on kill sites. So they'll, like if a bear or a wolf shows up or whatever, they'll typically go. Or certainly when we show up, they leave, and then we can put up cameras and stuff. But it's maybe nice for them because the bears are all hibernating and they don't have that as competition, and we don't have much for wolf activity in our study area. So then they really have like zero competition on kills in the winter. So maybe it works out okay. It seems to be working. They're raising lots of kittens. Shouldn't have said anything about the technology.
I know. James did.
Jumped the gun.
Wait.
Oh, there we go.
There we are.
Right there. Can you see him?
Oh, little guy. Hey.
Hi.
Okay, can you talk loud?
My name's Rowan. This is our first grade class. And my question is, how far can mountain lions jump on the rocks?
On the rocks specifically.
Mmm.
Hard to say on the rocks specifically, but I think Katie has an answer for you for kind of a general mountain lion jump.
Sure. Mountain lions can jump really, really high and really, really far. They're crazy good at jumping. So when we were talking about house cats earlier, I bet some of you with house cats know how good at jumping they are, and mountain lions are the same. So I know Joshua once saw a cat that kind of went up to a tree and like jumped up on the tree and like smacked its paws against it and then jumped away from the tree. And how far were the prints? Like,
I didn't find the landing site. It was about 20 yards away from the tree. So this thing ran at the tree, jumped, bounced off the tree. It was like parkour. Hit the tree and launched itself off into the woods. And it was about 20 yards away.
You didn't actually see it do that.
I didn't see it do it. I just saw it in the
tracks.
tracks.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, so they can jump probably about 40 yards if they need to, and like maybe like 20 or like 40 feet out, 20 feet up.
About across the road, right?
Yeah, like they could jump 2 lanes of traffic successfully.
Wow.
And land in the median and then jump the other 2.
That's amazing.
crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's like for Tigger from Winnie the Pooh, he's made of springs.
Yeah.
So are mountain lions.
They're going to believe that. Let's go to Mr. Dietz's class. And Mr. Dietz, do you guys have a question and tell us where you're from?
All right, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, my name's Emma, and so we are in Kalispell, Montana, and so I was like wondering, so like tracking purposes, whenever you're like tracking the lions, like whenever you're tracking them, you're trying to be as non-invasive as possible, right?
Yeah.
So I was wondering if you've come up with any like new like ways of like tracking them other than like kind of like following their trails and like picking up DNA samples. Like, have you come up with any other ways of tracking them?
That's a really good question. So you're absolutely right that we are trying to be as non-invasive as possible. And so a lot of people in the wildlife biology field use collars, right? That's their effective way of tracking cats.
And it works.
It definitely works.
You get a lot of data.
Yeah, but we don't want to do that just because we're going at it from a different angle of trying not to disturb them in that way. And so definitely when we get on a track, like you mentioned, our protocol or the thing that we do first is to go in the opposite direction of the cat. So if they were going this way, we'll go that way so that we don't accidentally run into them or scare them. And then we also use a lot of cameras in our study. So if we find a kill site, a place where a mountain lion's killed something, or maybe a den where a mom has lived with her kittens, we'll set up a camera there, and that allows us to see different individuals coming through, to watch their behavior, to sort of match DNA that we find there with individuals that we're seeing on screen. And we can do all of that with disturbing them really minimally.
And I'd say for a new technology, the lab that we work with, some researchers over at the lab, Rocky Mountain Research Station at the university, it's I think Department of Agriculture laboratory over there, but they have taken some fisheries science and applied it to snow tracking. So like if you're out in a stream and you want to know, do we have bull trout or not, you can scoop water, run it through a really fine filter to catch DNA and then test that filter. And then you know presence, absence of pretty much anything that's in there that you want to test for. And so someone over there had the brilliant idea. I'll credit Tommy with this one. And he figured, well, snow is water, so we can scoop snow and we can run DNA that's left in the snow and figure out what species are present in the snow. And it worked. And so we're not at the point yet with that technology that we can pinpoint individual mountain lions. But if you're trying to study like lynx or wolverine, who are really rare and well dispersed on landscapes and challenging to identify and track, you can set up bait stations, or you can sample snow from like trails and intersections of like wildlife trails, and you can run that snow, and then pretty much every animal that has been through there, you can figure that out just from a snow sample. So that's like really dialing up the non-invasive game right there.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Let's go to one more of the rattlesnakers. Miss Coster's class, do you have one quick question, and then we're going to go outside and do some tracking.
Hi, we do have a quick question. What if the foot prints get covered in snow in winter?
Oh man.
In the trail end.
Oh,
the trail end.
You want to take that one?
That happens all the time. So that's a lot of what we work with. That's such a good question. So the snow makes such an awesome surface for those tracks to go on when the cat is walking. But then if it snows again, or if the wind blows really hard, or if the sun comes out and it's warm and they melt, or if elk walk on top of it, all sorts of things can happen that make it really hard to keep following a track. And so sometimes you might be able to see, okay, I can't tell that this was a paw, but I can see about the size of this blob in the snow, and it's going in the direction of some other blobs, and maybe they're sort of doing something that a cat would do, and that might tell us that we're on a mountain lion track. But a lot of times you just have to end your track and say the snow conditions covered it up, or they weren't very good.
And sometimes if like the cat stepped and it froze and it snowed some dust in there, you can actually blow that lighter snow out or you can scoop it out, and you can feel in there for toe prints, and sometimes you can figure out what's going on under the snow that way.
You're a detective, right?
Yeah.
Teachers, if you could type in the chat box how many students are watching this right now, that would help me. Thank you. And I think we're about ready to go outside with some trackers. Let's see.
And straddles.
Allie, are you there?
Hi, everybody!
Oh, man. Field correspondent Allie.
I am out at beautiful MPG Ranch with two extraordinary trackers. I'm going to switch my camera view so you can meet Erica and Jackson at the MPG Ranch.
Hi, everybody. Welcome.
Awesome. So Erica and Jackson have brought some cool things that they're going to share with you today. Some tools of the trade, you might say.
Yeah. So along with our backpack and our snowshoes and our lunch and our extra layers that we have for the day, we always bring our tracking kit. And we're going to go through like what we have when we go tracking to help us. The very first is our GPS unit. And we use this to track where we're going on the landscape, and then also put in waypoints so that we can track when we find a mountain lion track, where it goes, where we picked up hair or scat samples, where a kill site was. So this is a crucial tool for us when we're tracking.
Right. Every day when we go out, somebody will carry what's called a trail camera. You may have seen this kind of thing before. What this is it's a little machine that's got a battery pack in it. If we find a really high density site like a kill or a den or a bed or something where there's lots of animals coming and going, we'll take a little piece of webbing and hang this from a tree. And it's got a motion activated camera in here that will take little 60-second videos whenever something walks in front of it. And then at the end of the season, we'll pull all these memory cards and we'll have a bank of video of all the activity on the ranch from the season. Hairs?
Yeah, so another part of it is we collect hair samples. So this is a little hair sample collection kit. We have forceps in here that we use to collect the hairs. Oftentimes when we're collecting hairs, it's on a stick or a piece of brush that the mountain lion has like kind of slinked by and like rubbed up against. And so usually there's only a couple hairs. Sometimes if it goes through some barbed wire or something like that, then we get a bunch of hair. So sometimes we're just kind of crawling around through the woods looking for these tiny single hairs on branches. So when we find some, we take a lighter and we sterilize the forceps. We pick out the hairs and then we put them in these envelopes. And we'll mark a waypoint as to where these were on our GPS, and then maybe write some comments on there like we suspect it's a mountain lion, a female mountain lion, or a mountain lion with kittens or something like that, just for more information for when we run those in the lab. Another way that we can collect hair samples are with these gun brushes. So those are literally used guns. They're like little copper wire brushes. And when we get to a place like a den site or something like that where we know there's a lot of mountain lion traffic in and out, we can set up those gun brushes in the ground and get passive fur that way. So it'll collect fur and we can collect DNA that way.
Cool. In addition to pulling DNA from hair samples, we also pick up any and all cat poop that we find in the woods. Always using nitrile gloves so that we stay healthy enough to keep doing this job. And then you throw your poop samples in some little plastic cups that we seal up, carry out in your backpack, and then we have a big freezer full of mountain lion poop at MPG that goes to the Rocky Mountain Lab once a year, which is actually really valuable because we can identify down to the individual which cat it was.
Another tool that we have that's helps us get some clues immediately as to who or what we're tracking on the landscape is a tape measure. So we use this to measure the size of the tracks themselves and then also their stride length, so how big their steps are. And that can give us an idea of are we tracking a big tom, maybe a female, or some kittens. It'll just give us an idea of how large that animal is and who we might be tracking. Yeah.
That's kind of the bulk of it, and then
there's
there's always a bunch more junk in your pack: tape, paracord, extra batteries, pens and pencils, things you should have in the field with you all the time. But that's the bulk of what we use to pull data on the cats.
Awesome.
So,
yeah.
With that, do we want to?
Yeah, we found something this morning, didn't we? Yeah. So we were out, as you can see, gorgeous MPG Ranch. There's Bitterroot Mountains that we're looking at, Bitterroot River, up into the hills. And we were walking along here, and we discovered this morning, dun dun dun,
Which is our favorite thing to find in the woods.
what kind of poop, or what are we looking at here?
So we can tell right away by looking at this poop that it's not mountain lion. Because we can see a little bit of the diet that's going on here with this animal. This animal was eating lots of berries, and that's not typically a mountain lion food. That's more of a canine food, so it kind of and sometimes bears. But then also look at the shape of that and kind of go from there. I'm not
Nice. The shape of the poop, the size of the poop.
We're excited about because it can give us answers to DNA. We can collect this poop if we're on a mountains of scat, and we can collect that scat and get DNA analysis done to know what individual we're tracking, which is really helpful for our study. So the way we do that is we put on gloves and then put segments of the scat and put it in our collection cups. We put the lid on and we put it in a plastic bag so we don't want any poop leaks in our backpack while we're tracking. And then we bring that back to the lab.
Everything, poop or hair or whatever we find, all gets entered into the handheld GPS and then transferred onto the computer at the end of the day. If you do that we have a really interactive map where we found this different evidence, and then that's cross-referenced with the DNA results from the lab, and we have like a really thorough picture of which animals are with and where they're going on the landscape.
Hi guys.
Awesome.
Your picture is frozen. Just so you know, your picture is frozen, and we could hear you, but you were breaking up a little bit. So
Okay.
So I think we can probably come back inside, and we're going to do a breakout room in just a few minutes, and you will be able to ask more questions about tracking classes in your breakout sessions. So if you didn't catch all of that, you can certainly ask some questions in a minute. But we want to go back to Joshua and Katie, because Joshua, you have news, right? So I want all the students to do a drum roll, ready? Because we have news from last year's tracking.
Are we broadcasting us? I think we're still broadcasting.
Broadcasting you. You should be.
Are we here? Hello?
Okay, let's do a sound check. Students, can you hear Joshua?
Thumbs up or arms up or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
All right,
Yeah,
cool, great. So one of the things that we discovered last winter, it was an amazing season for us. We were very successful in the field. And we got some genetics back from a kill site and a den site, and we got some remarkable camera imagery that showed a mother. Initially, the imagery was of a mother with 5 kittens. And we can say for certain that they're all the same age. They're all from the same litter. They're all very young in this video. And then midsummer, we got video of that same mother with 6 kittens. So either we missed one in the other video, or something happened. Sometimes they will adopt, but it seems rather generous if you already have 5 to take on another. But either way, we have imagery of a mom with 6 young ones following her around. So that is an enormous family group. It just never happens that way. Usually mountain lions have 1 to 4 kittens. Usually 1 or 2 of those kittens actually survive their first year of life. And we pulled imagery off of a card from just this last October that shows that family group looks like they are mostly still intact as best as we can see. So that means that mother is an amazing hunter and is providing for, now they're over a year old, young ones. So it's a very unusual and unique scenario, and we're just really fortunate to to witness that on the ranch and to have imagery of that and to have collected the DNA that supports it.
Very cool. Well, I think we are going to take about 10 minutes now to go to breakout rooms, and Joshua is going to join in with the high school students when I open the rooms, and Katie's going to stay here with the elementary students. And so you can really get digging into some information that you need if you're working on the challenge or that you're just interested in. So how this works, teachers, is I'm going to open the rooms. You'll be asked if you want to join a room. You will go back, you will go into that room. I'm talking particularly to the high school students. Katie's going to stay right here. And then we'll give you about a minute notice for when we're going to close the rooms, and then we'll come back and wrap it up.
Great.
So here we go.
High school, I'll meet you downstairs in just a sec.
Let's get those high schoolers out here.
See you later, high schoolers.
There they go. All right. And for elementary, I'm going to go ahead and unmute everybody. And so don't have a lot of extra conversation, but that way you can just ask questions and Katie can talk to you. So just a second. Okay. Now I wonder where Miss Coster went.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. This is New York, Katie. And I'm not seeing Miss Coster anymore. I wonder if she left by mistake, but she'll come back in.
All right. Well, hey, everyone out there in New York. Is it really cold there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe one question to start.
Lots of hands.
That is something we consider collecting, but it's not as reliable.
Introduce yourself, ask your
I
question.
learned it and I wonder how heavy
Ooh, that is a super good question. So it really depends on how old they are and if they're a boy or a girl. So mountain lion kittens are tiny, tiny. So they weigh about as much as maybe your house cat at home. But some of the largest male mountain lions on record were well over 200 pounds. So that's a really big animal. So they can be quite large. Good question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Somebody else? Go ahead, because I don't see Mrs. Coster coming back yet.
How do they hunt?
How do they hunt?
And maybe what do they hunt? What are their favorite foods?
Oh, perfect questions. Okay, so let's start with what do they hunt? So around here, we see mountain lions killing a lot of deer. So we have mule deer and white-tailed deer, and then they kill elk as well. So elk are way bigger, right? So it's awesome that they can kill elk. And then not so much here, but in other parts of the country, we know that mountain lions will also kill moose, which are huge, right? So they're really good hunters. And the way that they hunt is they stalk their prey. So mountain lions can be very, very quiet and move through the woods without making hardly a sound. And then they'll jump out when they're ready to go for that prey. And a lot of times they'll hold on to the prey's throat and sort of bring it down that way. And sometimes you'll see on a dead animal that a mountain lion has killed scratch marks on that animal's nose because the mountain lion was kind of scratching their face while they were holding on to their throats. So they're very good hunters and they kill things that are much bigger than they are. So it's pretty cool. Really good questions. What else?
How long are mountain lions?
How long are they? Yeah, that's a good question. Oh, we have a really good example. Whoa! So as you can see, that's a so this is a mountain lion pelt. So you can see it's super long, especially because mountain lions have this crazy tail. right? So just looking at this is probably like 6 or 7 feet long. So obviously this is a little bit shrunken up. This mountain lion pelt has kind of a sad little face, but their tails, which they use for balance as they're moving through the mountains in the deep snow, really make them pretty long. So that's a good question. Good save with the pelt.
Great. Keep going, New York. You're the only ones on.
Go ahead, Jessica.
Hello.
It's my birthday today.
Happy birthday! How old are you? 7? Whoa.
7.
Cool.
Very exciting. Doesn't she look beautiful?
You look beautiful. Happy birthday.
What's your question?
How far can mountain lions travel?
How far can they travel?
Fast.
How fast or how far or both?
Could you tell us both? I think that would be good.
Sure. So mountain lions can travel really, really far distances. So I think Joshua, who was that big tall guy who was here a second ago, was talking about a mountain lion that started its life out in South Dakota and went all the way to Connecticut. So that's like close to where you all live. So basically from where I live to where you live. So a really, really long ways away. And they can move pretty fast, you know, like maybe like 30-ish miles per hour. So definitely as fast as a car. And they're just really good at moving across the landscape. So a lot of times it takes me all day to follow a mountain lion for maybe a couple of miles. And I know that they traveled that distance in probably a couple of minutes. So it's pretty neat. They're really good at what they do.
Cool.
So many questions.
I have a question, Kitty, maybe
Yeah.
that you can just quickly answer as
Sure.
a kind of our last question. What got you interested in being a mountain lion tracker? Because looking at you, I wouldn't say, oh, she's a mountain lion tracker.
You wouldn't?
No, I wouldn't.
Well, I actually went to school in New York, where you all live, a little bit south of where you are. And I knew that I loved being outside. So initially I wanted to study rocks. I studied geology. But I got a job after college in Yellowstone where I was working with bison, so like buffalo, and then moose and mountain lions, and I fell in love with that job because it let me be outside and it let me go hiking all over the place. But it also helped me to learn about animals that are important to their ecosystems and important to the wilderness. So if any of you like being outside or like playing in the snow, playing in the dirt, running around, you might really like a job like this too, that isn't so much in an office, but is outside and very physical. So I would highly recommend it.
Very cool. And we want to remind the teacher there in New York that we have another challenge coming up in just a minute, at the end of the month, about golden eagles. And first graders can do this, and it's so fun. And we're going to learn about the golden eagles here at MPG. So we would love to have you guys get in on our challenge and hear from you guys about eagles, because I bet you have eagles where you live, right?
Yeah.
Thumbs up if you guys have eagles. Yeah.
I guess we're
Cool.
still.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think Joshua's going to run upstairs, maybe, or not.
To finish that
We
question
see
with
you.
the poaching, we have a ton of cameras on the ranch, so we catch all the poachers. Trespasses.
We're having a different conversation downstairs.
Good question. That is so cool. Well, I think it's just time to wrap it up. Joshua, you want to say any final words to the students?
I just want to thank everybody for participating and being a part of this. I love the fact that we get to connect in this way. Thank you so much for digging into the research. And yeah, just keep your questions coming. I'll respond to emails, and I look forward to reading your work. So thank you all very much.